There's a ton of players still making this massive mistake, and this is in relevance to those that haven't fully grasped what this type or style of game requires. I would even say that with this type of game, to make the most of your time, you have to have a plan. Should you be aiming for Ultimate Valby and Luna, or should you continue to focus on the things that you've been focusing on? Now, the very first thing that I mentioned was that you have to have a plan. You'll probably never ever see a video where I don't have a target item already at the bottom. And the reason why that is because every single day I get on this game, I always try to min-max my time as much as possible. Now, there's a lot of things I would argue that you don't want to or don't have to min-max if you're like super casual or you're just an average player just enjoying yourself. But I would argue that if you want to get the most out of your time, you want to make sure you're constantly planning and prepping things on your account. So even right now, if you're one of those players that's trying to get Luna, you should be prepping some of your basic materials that you know you're going to need. Crystallization Catalyst, Gold, Energy Activator, at least one so that you can get that capacity. And that's something that I would say that you're just going to always do standardly so that you're prepared for when the unit drops, just being able to go right into leveling, investing in them, even if you might not know necessarily what they do. Because for some people, I know that they're going to get this character no matter what, and they're going to love the character just because they like the way the character looks. With that, when we're talking about identifying and having a plan, this is not just so that you are min-maxing or maximizing your time, but this is also so that you can accomplish more. Now, the main crossroad that we have to cross here is whether or not you should be aiming for these new units that are coming out, or should you continue to focus on the units you have, right? And that leads us into identifying what you exactly need on your account. Now, this is subjective to each person because I would argue that for the most part, what most players have done on average is they have built their characters to be able to do a little bit of both. So whether it be farming and bossing or vice versa, or maybe they have locked a character into just bossing. And I feel like no matter where you fall, you have to identify what you need on your account. So for what we know, Luna is going to be coming into the game as a support, and then she's going to have a Transcendence, for example, that's going to allow her to also then become a DPS. So this is a unit that if you're looking at your account and you're like, I don't really have any supports built on my account, this might be a unit that you might want to start farming for, but you might not start investing in just yet because you still have other things or other projects you're trying to finalize. Now, I will say if this is a unit that you are saying that you want to focus on 1,000%, then it's going to be in your best interest to maybe stop investing in the character you're currently working on so that you'll have whatever resource you currently have to start pushing into the new character that's coming. But I really wouldn't typically advise that just simply because a lot of the times with these types of games, anytime you have an unfinished project and you could just keep moving around and having unfinished projects, it becomes much harder to return back to that character to finish them because you're not only just working on a character, but you're also working on a gun at the exact same time a lot of the times. And the thing about that is that the resources are shared amongst the same thing, amongst these two things, right? So if you're using Crystallization Catalyst, you're using them on Descendants and weapons. If you're using Energy Activators, you're using them on Descendants and weapons, So these resources do become very scarce, and you're going to have to constantly be farming them so that you're maintaining a certain amount so that you're always getting things done, right? And so when you're looking at your goal of trying to progress, right? And this is for those that are with that mindset of I'm trying to consistently make sure I'm progressing. You want to finish things as you go. Now, the other argument to this too is that there are some Descendants that don't require nearly as much investment. Like I know there's some builds right now, like for like Ultimate Lepic, for example, you only got to crystallize him 3 times and he's able to do the job that people are using within their builds for him to do. And this is actually a really good thing to start understanding. And this is why I always tell you guys, it is important that you kind of look around. Like, don't just watch my videos, but watch other people's videos to kind of see like, okay, how much investment? And that's a question that is worth asking. And I'm going to always try to make sure I mention that. How much investment did it actually take for you to get that result, right? Because that could also be another direction or what route you might take is like, okay, maybe I'll start working on these characters. Again, kind of looking at your plan. I'm going to work on these characters because they require a little less investment versus now I'm going to work on this character that requires me to module socket every single slot. And so if you kind of divvy that up and you start kind of looking at investing in characters in that way, that also might allow you to get more enjoyment out of more characters if you're that type of player. But I do know what tends to happen is as new content comes out, there is this pressure, especially once you see characters coming out and they're doing some insane stuff. Gotta aim for the new Valby, gotta, whatever it is on YouTube, it is all about the time that you put in is what you get out. And depending on how much time you have, you want to make sure that you're getting the most out of that time. And so focusing on a new character might not be the most optimal thing for you to do, especially if you still are working on things. Now, if you're almost done with a character, then yeah, sure. Yeah, and if you don't really care and you're just enjoying the game, it's absolutely okay to go and shift into trying to get Luna and Valby. Now, the other thing to this too is also understanding who's probably going to be harder to grind versus the other. Luna is probably going to be a lot more accessible than Ultimate Valby. I would even argue that Ultimates typically are just the harder variants of units or Descendants to farm because of how much more potent they can be. Because a lot of the times they have their own unique Transcendents specific to their ultimate form versus with the, new Luna coming out, she's just going to have her Transcendents. It doesn't mean she's not going to be strong. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that the value of what at least the game values these units to be is usually significantly higher. So for what we all know, what Valby can do, if you already have built base Valby, it might be actually okay to hold off, right? Like these are some of the things that you have to kind of consider. Like if you just finished building Valby, then it actually would have probably been better for you to have not built Valby and then waited for the ultimate form just so that you could maybe get a little bit more. And so it's like there's a lot of varying like reasonings as to why you might do something versus not. But like I said, I feel like for the casual and for the average player, you really do want to take your time when it comes down to trying to, I would say, being too overzealous or biting off too much to chew, because that's something that will lead you to maybe not playing the game nearly as long as you might like to. And I know that that can overwhelm players. So that would be my advice as far as I'm thinking I'm playing gotchas, for grinding for the new Luna and for Ultimate Valby. I definitely would say, guys, continue to focus on what you currently have. I am still going to have content for you guys focused on these new units, but I don't want you guys to feel like there's this pressure that you have to have these units. It'll just be another great addition that if you get to them, you'll be able to get to them. I hope that this video, again, was able to give you guys some more insight on something that I feel like a lot of people are kind of trying to, figure out. Are they going to go for it? Are they not going to go for it? Because at the end of the day, these units are going to be here. And that's the name of the game, right? If you're especially not putting money into the game, whatever time you put in is what you get out, right? So that's basically going to be that, guys. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.